have to, black people, we have to fight. Egungu, you see us. Oguo, we have to fight. Let's go fight. Black people, we have to fight. Dandara, you see us. Oguo, we have to fight. Let's go fight. Black people, we have to fight. Makandalo, you see us. Oguo, we have to fight. Let's go fight. Black people, we have to fight. Nana John, Henry Clark, you see us.
We have to fight. Let's go fight.
Black people, we have to fight. Yasatewa, you see us. We have to fight.
Let's go fight.
Black people, we have to fight. Marcus Garvey, you see us. We have to fight. Let's go fight. Black people, we have to fight. Egungu, you see us. Oguo, we have to fight. Let's go fight. Black people, we have to fight. Dandara, you see us. Oguo, black people, we have to fight. Egungu, you see us. Oguo, we have to fight. Let's go fight. Black people, we have to fight. Dandara, you see us. Oguo, we have to fight. Let's go fight. Nana John Henry Clark, oh, you see us.
Oh, we have to fight. Let's go fight. Oh,
black people, we have to fight. Yes, I tell you see us. We have to fight.
let's go fight. Oh,
Black people, we have to fight. Marcus Garvey, oh, see us. We have to fight. Let's go fight. Black people, we have to fight. Nana Zumbi, oh, you see us. We have to fight.
let's go fight. Oh,
Black people, we have to fight. Nana Hannibal, oh, you see us. We have to fight. Let's go fight. Black people, we have to fight. Ancestors, oh, you see us. We have to fight. Let's go fight.
We have to have the courage to construct our own reality. And that's what Garvey was talking about. Because he said he looked around, he didn't see what he thought should be there. And so what did he do? He didn't get depressed about it. He didn't get defeated about it. He said, I'm going to build the government that we need to have. Ooh. Where do you get that kind of boldness from? So we got to go all the way back to Garvey, who said he would come again. He said he would be here with us, no matter how long it took. And I'm telling you that the way he comes back is in our work. Not honoring him in words, pomp and all of that stuff, but honoring him through doing what he did. How many of us have the courage to do that? The man took on the world for us and in our name. And then we come to Sodai. And in this presentation of the paradigm, I'm going to make this like what it is we want to reach. So Sodai is translated clear word in Dogana language. And I use it to mean that here we gain understanding. This is sight with understanding. And it is seeing beyond what just we think we see with this physical thing. It's seeing beyond that. And so we gain vision, because that's what vision is. With vision, you've got to be able to use the imagination informed by the African spirit. And Brother Amos, who I work very closely with, was a good friend of mine. He taught me, and he would talk about imagination. image a nation. Do you see? But that's got to be part of vision. To be a visionary, you got to see beyond this box here. You got to see beyond the ma'afa. You got to see what is it that our people rightfully should have, and that's what Garvey did. Garvey had a vision.
All of the Abosun, all of the Orisa, all of the Loa, all of the good spirits that would have happened to the people, your family. Nana Papa Bedesi, Papa Lepa Bedesi, Gansule Bedesi, Kapu Bedesi, Papa Lepa Bedesi, Ogu Bedesi, Padikri Bedesi, Palojo Bedesi, Ogufe, Ogufra Bedesi, Jingoko Bedesi, Egrikweda Bedesi, Oya Bedesi, Oshun Bedesi, Ogun Bedesi, Eyemoja Bedesi, Olokun Bedesi, Ogula Bedesi, Akwesi Mroka Bedesi, Abusumo Etiti, Nanampo, Bedesi, Abusumo Benku, Nipa, Bedesi, all the Abusum that in the north, the south, right and left, Bedesi, Yasamu, Semifre Papa, Mefemuni, Nanano Patamuni, Namumra, Nanano Pato, I call one of you, I call all of you, Bedesi, come and receive some of this drink, Nanano, we call all of those Bosum who have fought on behalf of African people, Nanano Patamuni, Namumra, all of those Bosum, all of those spirits who have agreed to help move African people forward, Yasamu, Muni, Namumra, Nanano Pati, Nanano Pati, you're saying I'm Mr. Mankwani, Yasamu, we call all of our ancestors, both our family, our community, and our natural ancestors, Nanano Pati, at this time, can you please call out our ancestors? Muni, Namumra, Mumra, 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 and I did and the animal business, Bookman business, Maternal business, Definitely business, my business, Nagazuki business,
Zumbi, Boyanahanda, Winnie Mandela, Fela and Nicola Paputi.
All of you should come with all of you should come to see some of the dreams. Nana no party, yes, we call on all of those ancestors who have committed themselves to African people, all of those ancestors who have committed themselves to family building, community building, and nation building, all of those ancestors who shed their own blood on behalf of African people, all of those ancestors who committed their time, who committed their minds, their spirits, their bodies to continuing to open the way for African people to be free, to have power, to be able to safeguard our existence and continue development. If I call one of you, I call all of you. Nana no Pacho be boneni. Ayoko Fuku Queen. Nana no Pacho, there's nothing bad here. It is me, Okonfo Queen. You said that was a part, you say thank you for what you have done for us. Nana no, you said that was in your mobile mind. You say thank you for what you will do for us. Nana no, yes, Lamu said, and then a bad that part. We ask that today be a good day. Yes, Lamu said today be a day where African people are able to come together on behalf of African people. Yes, Lamu, we ask that today be a day where no alien thoughts, no alien intellect or emotion or spirit are able to come in our space. We ask that today be a day where we consecrate a space where we're able to work on behalf of African people only. We're able to work on behalf of those who have came before us, those who are here now with us, and those who will come after us. I don't know. We ask that everything that happens today may go well. We ask that we will not meet anything negative on this road. We ask that if there's any challenges here today, we ask that if you are not able to remove those challenges for us, if you want us to face those challenges, we ask that you give us the strength, we ask that you give us the power, the humility, the clarity, the wisdom, and all of those things that are necessary for us to be victorious in the face of all of those challenges. I don't know. Yes, some are hoarding. Yes, some will seek out. Yes, some will tumi. Yes, some will answer. Yes, some will be VIP here to be a bit between the economy and we have Brabonum. We ask you for all those things that we need to be victorious in the face of our destiny and our life as African people. I don't know. You say that was that's
Tenda Mwadi, be thankful unto the Mother, Father, creative life force of the universe. Kudzai Mudzimu Mukuru. We give praises unto our great ancestors. Abibi Tumi, Abibi Fahodie, African power and African liberation for all African people. Greetings and welcome, brothers and sisters, on this Ojama Day, Wednesday, the 9th of July. It is quarter past the hour of 7 p.m. if you are in London, UK, as I am. And we want to greet you, brothers and sisters, and welcome to another session on Kimbunga Media, live and in session, dealing with the subject, GWAN in Kenya. What's happening in Kenya? Yes, indeed, brothers and sisters, we're going to be going live to Kenya today to hear from one of our brothers who is on the ground in Kenya. So do stay tuned, do stay tuned, do stay tuned. If you're just coming through, please hit up the like button as you come through, brothers and sisters, and spread this Pan-African energy all around this social media space. And share the link far and wide. Let the people them know that Sakawa is live right here now, live all the way to East Africa right now, brothers and sisters. Share the link. I'm let people know so we're live talking about what is happening with our brothers and sisters in the beautiful, beautiful nation of Kenya right now, kings and queens. For those who are unaware, the word sound Kimbunga, as spoken in the Kiubuntu or the Kiswahili language, simply means whirlwind and storm. And as the children of the most honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey, he said, look for me in the whirlwind, look for me in the storm. And so we are the whirlwind and the storm of Papa Garvey. We are the whirlwind and the storm. We are the energy of our warrior ancestors. And so as we, generate this warrior energy, this Pan-African energy through this media space, we do so with a consciousness that we aim to take the world by storm in the spirit of African revolution, brothers and sisters. And without further ado, it's just... I was going to use the word coincidence, but I'm saying not this coincidence. But it just so happens, brothers and sisters, that my last two guests, this being the second, have been on our journalists with that beautiful and powerful media institution, African Stream, brothers and sisters. And our brother is one such brother. If you are an avid watcher of African Stream, you would have seen him. But he's also a journalist and an activist in his own right. Brothers and sisters, let me introduce you to, without further ado, our brother, William Sakawa. Greetings and welcome, brother William.
Assalamu alaikum, brother. Nice to finally be with you.
Salamu, brother. Salamu. It's good to have you with us as well. And so it is your first time on Kimbunga Media. And whenever we have first timers, I always like, them to give a bit of an introduction of themselves to the audience. So please just introduce yourself to the Kimbunga Media audience.
My name is William Sakawa, and I believe that the 1.4 billion people of Africa are not inherently flawed, and that the current predicament that we see in Africa today is a result of very structural, very systemic things. So I see it as my role to try to contribute as much as possible to the understanding that for the African to be free, these structural forces must be removed. Africa must be liberated. That's the long and short of who I am, brother, if that suffices.
It does. I do want to ask you though, because I know that you are a journalist of African Stream. We're going to come into that in a second. But are you is that your profession in general? Are you a journalist outside of just African Stream, or did your journalism, like I know many other brothers and sisters have, begin with African Stream?
I actually joined African Stream while I was still in university. So
okay.
That was my first experience. Right.
Now
with the whole shutdown and everything.
Yes.
But journalism is what I do. Yes.
Right. Okay. All right. Beautiful. So it's good to have you with us. And before we get into our main topic today, you may or may not be aware that I interviewed Sister Inem last week in relation to Burkina Faso. I was thinking it was last week or the week before. But in relation to Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, the Alliance of the Sahel. And so obviously because of recent developments, it's necessary the people are going to want to hear your perspective and how you're thinking and feeling in relation to the closing down of African Stream. So, you know, anything that you wish to share with our viewers is entirely up to you.
Yeah, we could say, well, first of all, it's maybe a message of encouragement. You know, African Stream, the job or the main mission was to raise that African consciousness as much as possible. And in regard to that, I think the job was pretty much done. This was basically a validation. You know, when you're doing something and you see it has an effect, you know, seeing the Secretary of State of the United States literally read your mission statement. African Stream aims to tell the stories of Africans and home and abroad. This is literally our nemesis. This is empire. I mean, it's validating to a very huge extent. So it's less sad. Of course, it sucks that all that work, all that effort, all that community of Africans that was together in discourse, that it all went down the drain. But the bigger picture of it is that Pan-Africanism, anti-imperialism is very valid. It's a unifying force, and the mere fact that the empire felt threatened should be more motivation for Africans to find more and more ways, like, for example, we're doing now, to continue having these conversations, because liberation of the continent has to come from a place of enlightenment, a place of education.
Absolutely, my brother. Well, when we saw the message from our brother Ahmed Caballo, and we did post a thank you message to you all at African Stream, and in his message, brother Ahmed asked us all who are, you know, doing similar work to go all in, representing Africa, African people, and exposing Western imperialism wherever we see it. And so, as I said to Sister NM, and in that video, we would endeavor our best, my brother, to follow your good example. And we thank you personally for all of the work that you contributed to African Stream, all of the analysis. I was an avid viewer of all your sit downs with brother Ahmed and other brothers and sisters. So I know your voice, you know, your analysis very, very well. And so, you know, we truly appreciate you here at Kimbunga Media. So I want you to know that before we go forward. Yeah, give us a brother. All right. So let's get into this topic now. What go on in Kenya? What's happening in Kenya, brothers and sisters? That beautiful nation in East Africa, you know, that has really been in the midst of uprising for well over a year at this point. And for those brothers and sisters who have been watching, we did speak to our brother Achola in Nairobi last year, when it first kicked off. We were scheduled to speak to our brother William then as well, but as I say, nothing before its time, and the ancestors were aware of the fact that, you know, there will be another moment.
we're here
to bring our brother forward. So we're here now. Could you just, for those who may not be in the loop, let's start with last year and exactly what kicked off the protest and the demonstrations from last year. What was the motivating factor?
Last year we had the government wanted to raise $2.7 billion extra in taxes. This was due to pressure from the IMF, because one of their conditions was, if you're going to give you this amount of money, these billions of dollars, we need to be sure that you can pay it back. So the way you can show you can pay it back is to raise this money. But this money was going to tax things like bread, was going to tax things like sanitary towels, was going to tax things like wheelchairs. So these are the essentials that normal everyday people have to use. And at the same time, the taxes on things like aircraft parts are being removed, which are products which are mostly used by the elite. So you have a very regressive taxation bill which seeks to kind of extract more and more money out of the poorest sections of society.
Yes.
And I think last year, or what has been happening since, was the Antonio Gramsci's quote that the old world is dying and a new world is struggling to be born. Now is the time for monsters. So that is basically, that has been the running theme of it. I think for the first time in decades, actually, Africans or Kenyans did not need a figurehead, because for a long time we had the opposition leader, Raila Odinga. If you're gonna have protest anywhere in the country, that was the person who was gonna call the protest. So for the first time in very, very many years, you had Kenyans who came out their own volition without being stewarded by one figure. So I consider it very significant, or a very pivotal moment in Kenya's history, because it basically broke away from the chains of political patronage as a means of expressing political views. So we had the opposition for the first time not being the mainstream opposition, but being the people, and actually pushing the president to the point he had to actually withdraw the bill back.
Right.
And when considering this, it's also important to note why it happened the way it did, because if something of the sort happened in a place like Cuba or North Korea, Lord forbid, the West will, raise hell about it. But because it's Kenya, we haven't really seen much in terms of action being taken to force the government to not act in a regressive manner, because Kenya has been critical to the imperialist establishment. So that was last year, and a lot of the grievances that took place last year carried on this year, because, for example, we had 60 people who were killed during the finance bill protest officially. The number is obviously much, much higher, and that theme of the killing of young people is still happening right now, which is one of the key motivating factors for why people are on the streets today. The economic situation hasn't improved. Employment is still an issue. We have a lot of unemployed youth. So there's a lot of general political grievance against President Ruto's administration since finance bill, with no change whatsoever to this point.
Right. Now, my brother, somebody listening might say to themselves, well, Kenya is not new to IMF loans. Yeah, and they've never had a particularly positive impact upon the country. Based upon what I've learned, there have been at least 22 IMF loans in Kenya that the government has taken out with the International Monetary Fund before now. So what was different about this particular iteration of the loan? Was there something different this time around, or was it just that the people were in a different place within the masses, the consciousness of the masses at this moment?
Yeah, I'll actually go with your second point. I think the people are in a different place, because I firmly believe the IMF is not interested in a country that pays all its debt. The role of the IMF is to continue extracting interest for as long as possible. So in terms of that, they have been pretty consistent from the 80s to 2024, 2025. That has been consistent. But what has changed is that at some point, considering every single year you're adding more and more taxes, at some point things are going to break. Now this was the breaking point. Now this was the level where people's political consciousness now had to be linked to the economy as well, realizing, your vote doesn't matter, or politics doesn't matter if you don't control the economy. The economy and politics are integrally linked. So this is something that has been increasingly sharpening the more the material conditions worsen as a result of these bodies like the IMF.
Right. Okay. Beautiful. And my next question is relating to what this movement is generally speaking referred to. Yeah, and I've even been in some conversations in various capacities with brothers and sisters who are from Kenya recently, and in Kenya recently, and it's always referred to as the Gen Z movement, Gen Z protests, Gen Z uprisings. And there are some brothers and sisters I know who have a problem with that terminology and it being referred to as such. Yeah. How accurate is this Gen Z label? And how should we consider it politically as the African diaspora?
The overwhelming, or the majority of people that we see on the streets today, of course, are Gen Z. But I won't agree, or I don't support, referring to the movement as a Gen Z movement, because these are not just youth issues. Taxation, corruption, rule of law, police brutality, all this affects every single member of society, regardless of generation. So while we might see the young people being the face of it, I'd really like for these to become to be seen as a national issue, because there's also the risk of the older generation now saying it's a youth movement, it's a Gen Z movement, so they don't really feel the need to more actively engage with what is a real change, a real positive change happening. So yeah, there's many young faces in the movement, but it should be seen as a national struggle for dignity.
Okay, beautiful, beautiful. And so give us an idea since the protest first kicked off last year. It seems that things, at least in terms of international news, were relatively quiet up until the last week and a half, 2 weeks. Yeah. So has anything significant taken place in the interim? For those who are not aware, brothers and sisters, mass protests, and then even as of last year, there was an escalation in police brutality. This was last year now, of people being attacked on the streets, and also people disappearing. Yeah, and we're going to get into that a little bit more in a second, because there seems to be a rise in that as it stands at the moment. But did the movement really just die down and then reignite itself, or what's been happening for the last year since it initially kicked off?
You could say it kind of went a bit quiet, not exactly died. And a huge part of the reason it went underground is because of the repression. There was opposition, or there were protests against police brutality, against government repression. Because I remember even during the finance bill protest, we had a number of abductions going on. And this never changed, actually. This never changed at all. It has been happening. But I think what has been happening also is that while these things go on, they continue piling onto the people's anger until at some point now, this anger boils over. So it's basically, it's been a cycle. The government continues doing stuff, gets to a point, it boils over, then it cools down again, then it boils over. But I think the problem is that no one really knows how far the next boil over will go. So that's the real risk for the government as well.
So the talk was last year that the protest had succeeded in having an impact upon the implementation of this finance bill, and the nature of the relationship that the Kenyan government was developing with the IMF. What impact did the process last year have on the finance bill?
Not much, unfortunately, because in terms of the optics of it, in terms of how it physically appears, we had the president stand on TV and say, okay, fine, I have listened to the Kenyans, I will withdraw the finance bill. He said that, but in actuality, the finance bill now has been brought in various small packages. So they have been deceived, or Kenyans have been deceived. But yeah, we can't also say that nothing happened at all, because we then had it on TV saying, fine, I'll withdraw. So it's basically the president realized the power of the people, or the potential people have when they come together and collectively bargain.
Right. And so yes, basically, so to be clear, brothers and sisters, what our brother is informing us of, because last year, as he said, William Ruto did come true and declare that the finance bill was not going to be implemented and so on, but it's being brought in various different smaller packages. Now, that it's interesting to me that this is a dictate of the International Monetary Fund, which is supposed to be adherence to the principles of the free market. And higher taxation is supposed to be against, free market fundamentalism, free market principles. You know what I'm saying? So was there any talk, my brother, in Kenya, or has there been any talk of not taxing the people and their bread, but taxing the corporations that operate in Kenya in order to raise the money? Has that been a part of the conversation?
Yeah. Among the progressive circles, it certainly has been. But I wouldn't say it has gone into the mainstream conversations. But in terms of realizing exactly where the problem is, we had people from, for example, the Communist Party Marxist Kenya last year during the protest tell us what we have here is a very regressive tax regime, because you're taxing people who literally have nothing, but you have 8,000 people owning 75% of the country's wealth, and Kenya. So 8,000 people out of 50 million people own 75% of the country's wealth. But this wealth is never really taxed. And this is exactly where Kenya's, if you want to extract money from, this is where all that money is sitting, not with the poor people who are going to buy bread in the morning.
Absolutely, absolutely. That situation replicates itself all over the black world. Yeah, you know what I'm saying. So think about it, brothers and sisters. 8,000 people control and own what you say 75% of the economy.
Yes, yes, yes.
And I'm sure there are some British corporations
Yeah, yeah.
listed. Can you name any of them? Just
So, yeah, he's two. We have Finlays and we have Unilever, and for
right.
it's even much worse because Kenya is known as one of the biggest tea exporters in the world. They export high quality tea, but
Yeah.
behind this tea we have colonial dispossession because the land which these corporations grow this tea on was stolen from indigenous communities who are still
Absolutely.
trying to get their land back. So these corporations scam and they take the land away. They don't pay fair wages. They engage in union busting, try to get as low a tax as possible. So this is where the wealth lies. And again, just going back to the conversation of land and why you have so many young people outside. I think the biggest land disenfranchised group in Kenya are the youth. The person least likely to have land is a youth due to many factors, like, for example, smaller and smaller plots, because you have a family, you have maybe 6 siblings, what is really there to distribute at this point? So these, considering the foundation of Africa is land, you have 70% of Africans derive their livelihood from agriculture. It doesn't make sense for you not to have land as an African, but that is the case. That is the case for Kenya, where you have one family, the Kenyatta family, owning land the size of like 3 counties.
Yeah.
So once you look at the land inequality, the role of the elite in perpetuating that, in making sure the British settlers themselves did not leave but continue to maintain what they had.
Yes.
You have the conservancy groups by the guy called Ian Craig from the Northern Rangelands Trust. So the guy's trust controls 8% of Kenya's total land area.
Okay.
By the guy's grandfather was a British settler. So you have the grandson of a British settler directly controlling 8% of Kenya's land in 2025. So this, just looking at history and how it has gone on till today, you now see the basis of why people are on the streets. It's all economic disempowerment, and it's all 5
right. Okay. And brothers and sisters, just so you know, we're speaking to brother William Sakawa. Now, my brother, you have to know that here at Kimbunga Media, we privilege African names in us. So henceforth, I'm just going to be calling you brother Sakawa.
Works for me.
All right. Beautiful, beautiful. And brothers and sisters, we are here speaking to our brother who is residing in Kenya. We are currently walking with the spirit of Baba Dedan Kimati. We are currently walking with the spirit of Mama Wanjiru and Nyamarutu, brothers and sisters, Mama and Baba of the Kenya Land and Freedom Army, referred to as popularly as the Mau Mau brothers and sisters. And in the words of Omowale Malcolm X, he said it took for the Mau Mau to bring freedom not just to Kenya but to half of Africa. You know what I'm saying? Because when the colonizer woke up and realized that there were some brothers and sisters on the ground who didn't care about airs and graces, who didn't care about diplomacy, they just saw that their land was taken over and they wanted to reclaim the land. That's what put the fear of the creator into the colonizer in the 1950s, brothers and sisters. But you see that neocolonialism was very, very much instituted, because even though the army at that time was referred to as the Kenya Land and Freedom Army, land is still very, very much an issue in Kenya today. We're starting an hour earlier than usual, so I know some of you are just coming in, so feel free to utilize that chat feature. We'll get your questions into our brother Sakawa shortly as well, my brothers and sisters, so do stay tuned. We're just getting some updates in terms of what has been taking place since last year, and a bit on the economic lay of the land in Kenya and among our people in Kenya. So my brother, so what led now, the mass protests had died down since last year. What led now to the reignition in recent weeks?
As I said, you know, there's been that cycle where there's an outburst, things go down, and then things come up. So what led the dam to break? We had a teacher, a 34-year-old teacher known as Albert. The guy was picked from his home in Western Kenya and driven to Nairobi and then killed in police custody. And then the police had the audacity to say he committed suicide in a police cell. And now, if you consider everything that had been happening, all the abductions, all the shootings, all the beatings that had been happening to that point, this was the point where now things broke. Because people, first of all, they felt insulted. How do you say you take someone from his home, literally about to have a meal with his family, drive him to Nairobi, and then why did he kill himself before he was with you guys? So, and then it went even further to the point that they destroy the CCTV footage because apparently it was missing conveniently on the day that he committed suicide. And it involved the very highest officers of the police because we are talking about the Deputy Inspector General, Lagat, being implicated. So there was an element of cover-up, and the sheer disregard of this teacher, probably as considered by many Kenyans, because, you know, he is just a teacher. Who's gonna come looking for him? His family probably doesn't have money to put pressure. He's not an American. The American embassy won't, you know, raise hell on this on Nairobi. So I think they were misguided that, you know, it's just a nobody. You know, who's going to care? So that is what Kenyans really came out in force to say, yo, this is not going to happen again. You know, because you think he's nobody doesn't mean he's nobody to us. We'll see, because again, I think these contradictions are impossible for the government to solve. What will happen for the next foreseeable future is more and more and more protest. I can't say what the outcome will be, but there will be more and more discontent against the current administration, because it doesn't serve the people in any way.
Right. And so since the death of our brother Albert, there seems to have been just an ongoing spate of police shootings. Even in the last 24 hours, I believe it was yesterday, 31 people were shot and hundreds, over 100, were wounded at a protest. First of all, do we know, just in the last 3 weeks, do we know what the numbers of people that have been killed by the police?
I could give you the low bar of it. Let's say since Albert Ojwang was killed, we had 20 people. So that's 21 since Albert. Then if you don't count 25th, if you don't count 25th and only count Sabasaba, you have at least 50 within the span of a month. You have at least 50 people. It could be 70, it could be 100, could be way more actually. But you have at least 50 people.
Let's clarify what you're referring to when you don't count 25th and Sabasaba. What are you referring to with those two things? Sorry, go ahead.
So I mean, for 25th, that's the anniversary for last year's finance bill protest, which 60 people killed. And I wasn't exactly sure on the number. I'm thinking between 8, 14, maybe 20. I just decided to count it all together. But we had the protest after Albert Ojwang's death. We had 3 protests. We had June 25th, and then we had Sabasaba. So that's 5 protests,
Yes, okay. And so if you're saying if you don't include those two, the numbers are about 50, yeah?
Yeah, at least 50.
At least 50. And if you do include those two, the numbers are exceeding 100 easily.
Yeah, I mean, for the past 2 years, the police have killed no less than 230 people.
Right.
2 years. And this is much, much worse than even the terrorist group in the region, Al-Shabaab. If you compare the 10-year terrorist victims versus police shooting victims, you'll find the police are much, much, more criminal than even the terrorists. There's actually a study from 2014 that found you are 5 times more likely to be shot by police than to be shot by an armed criminal. So you're more likely to die in police hands than in any other sense.
That is madness.
It is. It's a structural problem, and it's something that's carrying since colonialism, because the role of police has never been about making Kenyans secure. It has been about securing the elite and their property.
Yes.
Before independence, that was white people and white people property. After independence, we now had the inclusion of a new class of black elite who are now being protected by this same colonial arrangement. And they're being protected from Africans, which is why Africans are the target of the violence that we've seen consistently throughout colonialism, independence, to the contemporary era.
You said that report came out in 2014?
Yes.
So I'm highlighting that, brothers and sisters, because when you look at the development of the United States of American government's relationship with the Kenyan government in recent years, and the fact that Kenyan police were drafted in to America's program in Haiti last year, you get some signs and signals as to why the Kenyan police may have been chosen for that particular job, brothers and sisters. And I just want to say again, we applaud our brothers and sisters in Kenya for standing up around that time for our people in Haiti. In terms of that particular program right there, it's a powerful move. And so we understand that well over 100 have been killed. We understand that hundreds have been wounded. Then we're hearing, my brother, reports of people that are just disappearing. So nobody doesn't know where they are, what's happened to them. To what extent is that an issue at the moment?
Oh, it is. It's an intimidation tactic. It's basically trying to put fear into people, into saying, there's no point criticizing the government. The government is all powerful. They're simply gonna come and pick you up in the middle of the night. So it's a tactic to put fear into Kenyans, but I don't really see that working, because if the movement was 2 or 3 people and you kidnap all of them, you'd strike fear into people. But now this is an entire generation. Unless the argument is to kidnap an entire generation, it's really not going to work. They might try, but I don't really see it being successful.
Which is powerful, because it's being reported, my brother, that President Ruto himself has publicly stated that the police should shoot the protesters in the leg. Is that the case?
I mean, it sounds crazy, right? I mean, in any normal working country, this will be grounds for impeachment. This will be grounds from office. So this is just to show you the systemic rot of the Kenyan state. Before the President Ruto had his Minister of Interior also say police are allowed to shoot to kill. He literally said that. Don't forget, this guy is a lawyer. I don't know if he's a human rights lawyer, but he is a lawyer. So you have a lawyer who's well versed with the Constitution telling police to shoot to kill, despite the law being very clear on the procedure being taken in terms of enacting or enforcing the law. So it just goes to show also, because it's a concern of mine, there's a segment of Kenyans, a minority, thankfully, who try to appeal to the West, try to say, oh, we are going to take the president to the ICC. Let's record this as evidence. He's telling the police to shoot unarmed citizens to whatever in the foot. His interior minister is saying police should shoot to kill. Let's gather this as evidence for the ICC. The embassies are going to send a strongly worded letter. I don't think that's going to work. And the only reason it will work is if President Ruto suddenly was not useful for them. Right. Because at the point, I don't really expect the EU, the UK, the US they might say a few token things in terms of police, but they'll never take action. In fact, a lot of the funding for the police comes from the US, comes from the UK. A lot of the support, a lot of the equipment, a lot of the training. The terrorism police are trained by the CIA. So there's a very deep material linkage between the West and Kenya. And these, for example, the Subarus, which come and pick up, abduct people, these are donated by this very same institutions, these very same Western countries. So
Right.
it's even worse than being silent. They are complicit.
Right.
The money
Absolutely.
that they give the government is being used to fund repression. So
Absolutely.
it doesn't make sense for these very same people to also take
Yes.
action against President Ruto, which, in my opinion, is why he feels so emboldened. It's why he's doing
Yeah.
this. He knows they won't do anything. After all, Palestine is right there.
Right.
What have they done for Palestine? What will they do for us?
My brother, you bring me to another interesting dynamic, which I wasn't gonna go into, but it may be necessary based on what you just said. At the end of May, General Michael Langley was in Kenya for some form of a summit, and met with Ruto and various other African leaders. What can you tell us about that particular summit, and the relationship that is being forged between the American armed forces and the Kenyan government and Kenyan military and police as a result of that?
I think Kenya, not the people, Kenya, the state, and the US have a very valid reason to be involved with each other. It's a symbiotic relationship, kind of.
Right.
Because
Right.
if you look at AFRICOM, which has now shifted its headquarters to Nairobi, I believe. I'll have to confirm. If you look at AFRICOM in terms of the loss of influence from the Sahel, they're now looking for a new place to land. Remember, they had the biggest drone base in the world at $110 million in Niger.
Yep. Niger,
Before
yep.
Niger happened, it happened. Then the General Chani told them, pack your bags, leave. So they have been looking for a new home. And now you have President Ruto, who has problems at home. He might need the Americans to look away in terms of human rights. So don't sanction me, don't talk too much about these things. You might send the occasional strongly worded letter, but let's leave it at that. But I feel there's an implicit agreement that the Americans shut up about the repression back home, and the government serves Western or the US interests in the region in terms of expanding the military footprint, in terms of more intelligence, integration with the Kenyan state, more surveillance, that kind of thing. So there's a symbiotic relationship between the Kenyan state and the US government. There's a scratch my back, I scratch yours kind of arrangement.
So it seems like one Uncle Luwezi, who is a Pan-Africanist activist from Congo, said to me that they're looking to replace Kagame with Ruto as their head man on the continent. That was his speculation. Yeah.
Now, I can see that because you could argue in the global stage, President Kagame has kind of come out as toxic in terms of what's going on in Congo and how much more Congo has gotten into the global consciousness in terms of how many people are now interested in what's going on, the root causes of it, and the role Kagame plays as an agent of Western imperialism in extracting cobalt, which again are used by the very same companies like Google, Microsoft, Apple, Tesla, all of them. So Kagame might be looking like a hot potato right now, and remember, it's not new. The West had Mobutu before Kagame. After they were done with Mobutu, they discarded him. So I see it's definitely plausible that Kagame could be ditched in favor of Ruto. But with Ruto, it's also again a matter of time. I think his ghosts or the skeletons in his closet will catch up to him sooner or later.
Okay. And just to answer your question, I don't believe the headquarters is actually in Kenya. I'm not sure that's going to be a new development soon. It may well be. Up until recently, I know that they were bidding. They had African nations bidding to host the AFRICOM headquarters. For those who are not aware, AFRICOM is America's military high command for the African continent, but it's currently headquartered in Germany. And so they've been looking for a headquarters on the African continent. And nations like Liberia and Nigeria had publicly expressed interest in hosting the headquarters. Ridiculous situation in which that is effectively trying to impress the American military to have their headquarters in their nations. It's such a mad situation. Anyway, my brother, we don't want to get too far because there's so many related issues to this dynamic that we could get lost. Yeah, so I want to keep it right. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, there's very many layers, right? But the layer of the training that military and police are receiving in Kenya is extremely important based upon how the police are relating to the masses of the people as it stands at the moment. We're also, my brother, hearing a story, and forgive me because I'm forgetting the name that is being given to this group, but an unofficial militia among the young men in particular apparently is being created, and that government ministers are paying off young men to become an extension of the police force, an extra judicial extension of the police force to aggress brothers and sisters who are protesting on the streets of Kenya. Is that the case?
It is the case, and I recently started also seeing similarities with Haiti. We see a lot of violence in Haiti today in terms of gang warfare, and the elite in Haiti had a very key role in the creation of the instability we see today, where they created gangs as a means to further their interest. If, for example, people are protesting against something that the elite want still to happen, they'll deploy these guns against them. But in the process of doing this, they basically contributed to the continuing destabilization of Haiti. Of course, there's the context of imperialism and all that, of which the elite also play a role in. But this, for me, I feel is a very slippery slope. We had the youth even go by the governor's office when people are protesting Ojwang's death to tell him, we've done the work. Nairobi City everything's good. And if you look at something like, for instance, what was this? The Kenya Human Rights Commission, they had a press two days ago of police brutality. And then suddenly you have random goons breaking into Kenyan Human Rights Commission to beat up women and snatch phones and cameras. First of all, what youth has any beef with the Kenyan Human Rights Commission, considering they're the only ones who actually provide statistics about police killings?
Okay.
Who have a problem with them are the government, who think they talk too much and they cast a negative light on the government. So the use of goons can be traced back to really high levels of government today. And I think at the moment, it's very short-sighted for them, because I think it's going to bite everyone in the end, not just the poor people.
Yeah, my brother. And so just to clarify, brothers and sisters, what we're hearing is that there are government ministers who are paying off poor young people effectively in Kenya to become a part of the aggressive force against the protesting masses of Kenya. Which is there's so many levels of criminality.
If I could maybe add one of criminality, I think I talk about the insecurity of the African elite, because the reason they are able to have goons out on the streets is due to keeping them in a state of indignity. If these youth had dignified lives, if they had jobs, if they had communities they actually cared about, they wouldn't consider going to beat up women who are protesting against police brutality, of which they're also victims of. Just doesn't make sense. So I think the African elite has a very clear interest in making sure the average African is as poor mentally and physically as possible. And also to show you, or one of the reasons why it makes sense for them to collaborate with, bodies like the IMF. The IMF wants Africans poor, but someone else also wants African poor. That is the African elite, because a poor African elite can then be, in terms of elections, you can give them 200 shillings and buy their vote. You don't have to actually give them schools, give them industries, give them hospitals for you to actually be a leader to them. So the state of the African being as this poor unwashed person is very lucrative for the African elite. And that's why we have to actually get them out of positions of influence as soon as possible, because our
Absolutely.
development, our survival depends on them not being influential in society.
Absolutely. Brothers and sisters, we're speaking to Brother William Sakawa, who is a journalist and an activist operating in Kenya. And we're asking GWAN in Kenya, with our people in Kenya, update from our show last year, brothers and sisters. He has been informing us of the fact that the more recent mass protest was sparked by the killing in police custody of the brother Albert Ojwang. And that sparked a revival of the mass protest that came up last year, brothers and sisters. And he has also informed us that in spite of the fact that well over 100 people have been killed as a result, many more disappeared, many more injured, that the resolve of the people appears to be strong. You, like myself, brothers and sisters, may have seen pictures of what looks like and videos of what looks like hundreds of thousands of people out on the streets of Kenya. Now, my brother, I'm sometimes skeptical when I see these videos, because sometimes you get videos that say, yeah, this is a protest happening in this place, and it not a Nagosa, it's not real, right? So can you confirm for us that the videos that we've been seeing from Kenya are real? What's been the numbers of people out on the streets?
Yeah, the numbers are real, and this is just to show you, when you see the government kind of shaken, it is for good reason. This shows the level of discontent. The thousands of people you see, that is 100% real. I have been in the middle of those crowds. It's very, as you take the tear gas, it doesn't even register. You have that sense of camaraderie, morale is high. So the numbers are real. I have seen them. I have been a part of them, and it's beautiful. It's a very beautiful display of solidarity, of saying, I'm willing to risk my life the same way you're willing to risk your life for a different Kenya, for a more for a better country for our children.
Okay. And so we know that Ruto has effectively called on the police really to kill people. If you say people to the police, shoot them in the leg. There's nobody that has that level of accuracy, yeah, with a firearm in their hand. That isn't an order to kill. Let's be clear about that. When President William Ruto says shoot him in the leg, he is instructing his police to kill the people of Kenya. That is what he is saying. Yeah. So I would like to know, my brother, that in as much as last year was sparked by the finance bill, as much as this year the mass protest was sparked by effectively extrajudicial killings, yeah, in police custody. What are the demands related to the uprisings at the moment? What are the people saying? And how much is the issue of the economic situation still a part of the motivation for the uprisings as it stands at the moment?
I think the basis is the economy. Others are built on top of it, but the basis of it is the economy. If today the president were to suddenly turn the economy around and provide employment, provide healthcare, education, a lot of the discontent we see will suddenly go down. But the problem is, I think he is incapable of delivering that, because he's one of the reasons that progress doesn't happen. Remember when he campaigned, he had a very progressive manifesto in terms of holding the corrupt to account.
Yes.
I actually think a huge part of the economy's problem is corruption, because we lose more than 30% of our budget to corruption. How does a country function when it has a 30% hole in its budget? Something has to give, something has to break. So once we plug this hole, ensure that this level of corruption does not go on, because it is unsustainable. Unless you're going to tax, to milk rocks, it is unsustainable. So first of all, plug this hole, and then after that, return what was stolen, and then use that stolen wealth as a basis for industrialization, as a basis for giving young people jobs, enhancing infrastructure, building for a different tomorrow. Once that happens, of course, things will be different. But President Ruto is not the same. He's not the person to give this, because he's not interested in taking back what was stolen if he himself is among the thieves.
Absolutely.
So it's a catch-22. It's not that the problem is impossible to solve, but just that the person in office has no intention, has no incentive to be the problem solver.
Absolutely, my brother. And so, in a related question, then, to what extent are Pan-African organizations on the ground in Kenya involved in the uprisings? And what relationship do the organizations have with the masses of our people in terms of informing the protests and the goals of the uprisings?
I'm a member of I organize the Communist Party Marxist Kenya, and it's a deeply grassroots organization. We have cells in villages as far as Western Kenya. So there's that element of whatever happens has to come from the grassroots up. The people have to know why they're fighting, for what they're fighting for. So
Yes.
in terms of local organizing, that already exists. And the CPMK is also part of the Pan-African Socialist Alliance, which is an umbrella that has organizations like the AAPRP, for example, and the CPMK, and I think the Party for Socialism and Liberation. So there is a very big Pan-African umbrella with the understanding that these issues are not just Kenyan issues, these are African issues. When the IMF implements policies in Kenya, usually they are very similar to policies that were implemented in Nigeria. So once we realize we can link both struggles, then we can organize even better around the very issues and hopefully achieve much better outcomes. So in terms of organization, the Pan-African organizations are very much involved at the grassroots level, on the streets. You'll see them, running, of course, taking tear gas. But yes, the Pan-Africanists are very involved in the movement as well.
Okay. Beautiful. And that's an important question to ask, and an important answer that our brother gave, because Western imperialism doesn't act as a one separate nation state separated from the other European nation state. Wherever Western imperialism exists, especially among us as African people, they're there in numbers, they're there in conglomerates, they're there in associations like NATO. And the relationship with America and Kenya was elevated to the status of making Kenya what they call a non-NATO ally. Yes, which makes Kenya duty bound to defend America's interest. Yeah, on the world stage, brothers and sisters. But it's also the case that not just America is assisting and Britain is assisting in terms of arming and funding Kenyan armed forces, but also Israel. We're made to understand has a significant relationship with Kenyan armed forces and quote unquote security in Kenya as well. What can you tell us about Israel's involvement in Kenya, my brother?
First of all, we received a loan. I'm not sure the exact amount, but yes, we received a loan to buy an air defense missile system from Israel. As they say, I mean, we have two conflicting groups of people in our country. We have people who say we should simply look out for our interests and that's it. If you can get stuff from Israel, that's fine, so long as it serves Kenyan interests. But we also have another group of people that says, we shouldn't just take loans from Israel because we can't take loans from Israel. We have to kind of go beyond that. These are people who are literally killing women and children right now. If you go beyond that, the moral side of things, these weapons are trained on Palestinians. These are tools of oppression. So if you understand Kenya as a very important cog in the imperialist machine, though it is much lower in the hierarchy, you realize that it will literally do anything it can to be seen, not even given a place at the table, but just to be in the same room as these very regressive administrations like Israel, like the UK, like the US. Because, for instance, what business does Kenya have being a major NATO ally when NATO is the very same organization that killed Gaddafi?
Yes.
How do you collaborate with the United States in Somalia when the United States is the reason Al-Shabaab came up in the first place? Yes. So these things do not add up at all. And I think when we actually finally get that progressive revolutionary government, it won't just be transactional politics. Because we even had a few months ago, Kenya officially recognized Moroccan authority sovereignty over Western Sahara. And in exchange, we received fertilizers. So we have this, it sort of scratched my back as scratch yours, but I feel as Africans, given our history of oppression, our history of subjugation, the least we can do is have a principled moral stand against acts that we see today. So nothing happens here makes any sense at all for an African country. But again, it makes sense if you understand this is Coon headquarters.
Absolutely, absolutely. My brothers and sisters, we're going to give it about 20 minutes more. Get your questions in now. Please, at Kimbunga Media, if you would like to ask our brother Sakawa a question. And as you can hear, our brother is well informed, both in terms of the actual happenings on the ground in Kenya and well informed politically and economically about the state of the nation of Kenya, brothers and sisters. And so please, do get your questions in, utilize this opportunity, that we have our brother with us. So please, at Kimbunga Media in the chat, if you would like me to address any issues that have not yet been addressed with our brother Sakawa. Al-Shabaab, my brother, how did Al-Shabaab end up in a majority Christian, as they tell us, majority Christian nation? What's happening there?
We had Al-Shabaab is a story of American imperialism. We usually say Al-Qaeda was a result of American imperialism. This is also one of those cases. Remember in 1991, we had the collapse of the Somali government under the socialist government of Siad Barre. And since 1991, the country became a failed state. It collapsed. So between 1991 and 2006, we now had what was called the Islamic Courts Union, which was basically a conglomeration of Islamic courts, as the name suggests. So this was the first time since the fall of Siad Barre that Somalia was finally getting back on its feet, becoming stable. And this, for some reason, was a threat to the Americans, and they used the Ethiopians to invade Somalia in 2006. They collapsed the Islamic Courts Union. And in the vacuum that was left, we now have Al-Shabaab. So Al-Shabaab is the direct consequence of American intervention in Somalia. And at the same time, you have countries in the region, all the countries in the region, Uganda, Ethiopia, Kenya, South Sudan, all of them cooperate with the United States at some level in terms of fighting Al-Shabaab. Why would you fight the same person, or why would you accept help from the same person who set your house on fire in terms of helping you? Doesn't make sense, but that is what's happening. So our leaders in the region are either very blind or very complete. They actually will sell their own parents down the river if they could.
Interesting. And so then to what extent does the existence of Al-Shabaab, and I'm asking this question because this tends to be an excuse for either Western intervention or Western nations to empower African governments to aggress and move violently against the people. To what extent is the existence of Al-Shabaab being used as an excuse for the extrajudicial killings, disappearances, and woundings of our people in Kenya?
You might remember the quote, first they came for the communists, I did not speak out because I was not a communist, and they came for the, you understand how it goes, and then they finally came for me, and there was no one to speak out for me. I think what we see today in terms of what has been normalized, in terms of what is allowed to happen, is a direct consequence of Kenyans not speaking out when it was happening to the Somali community. Because after after 9/11, we had the war on terror, and Al-Shabaab has been seen by the West, by the US, as part of its global war on terror. So they'll collaborate with governments like Kenya if it means they go after Al-Shabaab. But also remember, the government of Kenya has internal issues. So if they can, the only person or one of the real parties who's concerned about human rights usually is the West. The Kenyan government sees human rights as a hindrance. It's blocking us. We want to do stuff. We want to go after this person and this person, but we can't go after them because of human rights. We have to arrest you. We have to take you to court. We have to prove you're actually guilty. So that's seen as too much work for them. They'd much rather barge into your room and kill you. So the war on terror gave them this perfect excuse. We can push through very draconian laws, which will simply go through because national security, right? We have to go after the terrorists. We don't want what happened in 9/11, because we also had several terror incidents here. We don't want that to happen again. So when these came into being, since Al-Shabaab is seen as a largely Somali outfit, we have the Somalis who are now targeted. We have the Somalis who are now being profiled at every single turn. It was very unsafe to be Somali. But things are improving now. But at the time, it was very unsafe. And a lot of what we as Kenyans allowed to happen then are now coming to bite us back now. Like, for example, the police knocking down your house in the dead of night, no warrant, no identification, masked faces, guns. That is what we allow to happen to a specific group of people.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how I see it. That's how I see it.
Okay, interesting. Yes, that is very interesting. We're starting to see a number of occurrences, and there's a couple of African nations that I know of that suddenly have quote unquote Islamist terrorism on their borders, and it makes some logical sense if a significant proportion of the population is in fact Muslim, but it's happening in places whereby that is not the case at the moment. And so yeah, that is something to look out for, especially because of Michael Langley's pronouncement that the Alliance of the Sahel is the center of terrorism on the African continent, brothers and sisters. Yeah,
it's also funny that he never really mentions. Yes, that is true. It is the center of terrorism, but the reason it is the center of terrorism is because they killed Gaddafi in 2011.
Right.
He'll never talk about that.
Absolutely. Brothers and sisters, we're speaking to our brother Sakawa from Kenya, and we are going to be wrapping up in about 15 minutes. So if you have questions for our brother, feel free to come through with your questions at Kimbunga Media in the chat, and we'll get them through. So my brother, where do you envisage that, based upon your reading of the situation at the moment in Kenya, where do you envisage this mass mobilization going? Is this a revival, my brother, of the Kenya Land and Freedom Army? Is that what we're witnessing at the moment? Is the spirit of Dedan Kimathi being resurrected at this moment in time, or will we have to wait another generation for Dedan Kimathi to come?
No, I think this is it. I think this is
right.
It. But
right.
Most importantly, I'd say the movement is just starting. Earlier on in the show, I mentioned how before June last year, Kenya never really had mass protests of the kind we saw without a figurehead, without someone like Raila Odinga. So I think this is our first, or the baby is now 2 years old. There are a lot of mistakes. There are a lot of learning experiences we'll have to go through. But I'm very confident in terms of the soul of the nation, that will of the people. I think I definitely see that nucleus somewhere. There's a general understanding of exactly what the people want, of a different kind of country that the people can imagine, can picture how much different things could be. And once that has been established, in as much as we may make mistakes along the way, I think it's all in the road to liberation. But I am very optimistic in terms of this is not just going to be another fluke. It's going to be another passing wind or burn out like a candle. I think this is definitely it, because the contradictions are there. Right. Unless the president addresses the key issues of the people, key land, employment, dignity, the resistance is simply going to become more and more and more. I mean, you've seen the population pyramid. You realize the lower you go, the more the people are there. So if we are a problem to Ruto now, he'll be dealing with way more young people in 5 years than he is. Because remember, there's a whole generation in high school right now, and they will leave. Right. They will be looking for jobs. They'll be looking for land. They'll be looking to settle down, but they won't have that. So they will join the rest of us who are discontent. And if he thinks he has a problem now,
yes. Yeah, absolutely. All right, I hear your point, but my brother, it strikes me as impossible that so many people could be getting killed on almost a daily basis at the moment, and there is no political opposition. I'm talking about from politicians in the country. You mentioned Raila Odinga. Is there any opposition coming from the political class in Kenya?
But then remember the point I mentioned about how African elite are threatened by the empowerment of their people.
Absolutely.
Right now, we have I'd say, a very good arrangement for Kenyan people, where we have the entire political class on one side as enemies of the Kenyan people. That is very, very useful for Kenyans. It does present its challenges, but it is very useful for Kenyans, because now Kenyans realize, despite our tribal affiliations, for example, we are on our own. There's two distinct classes. There's the political class, who are the wealthy African elite, and then there's us. There's us who cannot go for 3 months without working, or else, the situation is basically that there's a very clear distinction here: politicians on one side and Kenyans on the other side. They realize they do not have an incentive to speak about the police killings, the police brutality, because they realize their goose is cooked. They are now officially irrelevant. So it's basically just the passing of the guard, and probably it's for the best, because we won't want the hypocrites, like, for example, the deputy president. The guy was among the people telling people, no, don't go to protest. The protesters are maybe paid agents or stuff like that. But he somehow suddenly become very clever. But he wasn't saying the same things when he was in government. So I think the arrangement where the politicians on one side works well, because they realize we are all we have.
Wow. To demonstrate, my brothers and sisters, how deep what our brother has just said is, Israel is committing a genocide in Gaza at the moment, and there are former Israeli prime ministers and presidents who are saying that what the current prime minister is doing is wrong. Yeah, they will have the same interest. For well over 100 people to be shot and killed on the streets of Kenya in the space of 3 weeks, and nobody in government, in an opposition party, is speaking out against it, demonstrates the level, the extent to which Kenya as a nation has been captured by neo-colonial forces, brothers and sisters. That is a very, very, very deep situation.
Also consider during the protest last year, when 60 people were killed, President Ruto and Raila had not had their handshake. So Raila saw 60 young people killed, and his immediate thought was, I need to join the...
They need to go shake hands with...
Yeah, let's go shake hands. This is the perfect time.
It's
so
deep.
The politicians correctly understand that the unempowered African is a threat to their legitimacy. Because you could say, fuck billionaires, of course, but you could say the Americans, the Henry Ford, you could say he created industry. Rockefeller, financial industry, but at least there is work behind their work. The African elite does not say the same. The African elite only claim to fame is, I do politics. I am rich because I do politics.
That's right.
So what happens when you empower smart, many African people? What happens to your position as an African leader, right? That is the real risk for the African leaders, the African elite that we have today. That is why Africa is poor, because it is lucrative for them. Then they become kings of poor people.
Right. Absolutely, my brother. And we always like to ask, because our audience is global, and often in the African diaspora. So we like our brothers and sisters to know how they can stand in solidarity and support in whatever way possible with our people wherever we are in the world. So how can we as the people of the African diaspora support our brothers and sisters in Kenya at this current moment in time?
I think, first of all, organize amongst yourselves. That is, for Africa to be united, we also need Africans in the US, Africans in the diaspora to also be united. Once unification has happened, once you can organize together, once you educate yourselves, once you show up for each other in solidarity, then you can also now look out for Africa as well, because again, the struggle is coordinated. Also, what your attention on topics like this with brother Kimbunga is very important. Like, share, talk about it. And also shout out to Burkina Books, organizations like Burkina Books by Sister Ina are very good. Give her all your books, send her all your books.
Yes, absolutely, brothers and sisters. You got that instruction last week, and I'm saying, so do stay tuned. No doubt we'll be speaking to our sister again, and there'll be more from our sister. And I like your answer though. Our brother says, organize amongst yourselves first. Yeah. And so what all we're doing right here, brothers and sisters, is as a small contribution to our organization, is shining a light on the plight of our people in Kenya, as we have done Sudan before, as we have done Congo before. Brothers and sisters will know, let me just make this announcement now, that our brother Kambale Musavuli will be back with us next week to deal with all things Congo. We're going to be asking the question, brothers and sisters, has Donald Trump finally brought peace to Congo and Rwanda? We're going to ask that question, brothers and sisters. We're going to ask whether President Donald Trump has the magic elixir, so to speak, to bring peace between the nations of Rwanda and Congo. And our brother Kambale Musavuli will be here with us next week, brothers and sisters, to break it all the way down. Next week, Wednesday, Wednesday, the 16th, to break it all the way down, brothers and sisters, for us. I'm sure many of you have seen the images of a minister from the Rwanda government and a minister from the Congolese government sitting down with Trump and sitting down with, what's the other one's name? Secretary of State Ruto. Not Rubio. Marco Rubio, and signing documents and papers, and everyone's smiling. And this is supposed to be a sign of a peace deal. Well, brothers and sisters, there are few people in the world more equipped to break this down for us than our brother Kambale Musavuli. I'm sure our brother Sakawa would agree. I'm sure you're familiar with our brother, Kambale Musavuli. So, yeah, do join us next week, brothers and sisters. We're going to get all the way in on the situation in Congo and between Congo and Rwanda. My brother, we're going to move to a close. I do want to ask you if there's anything that we haven't addressed about the situation in Kenya at the moment that you think our people need to be aware of. Feel free to say it now.
Yeah, I think maybe to highlight that the struggle is very interconnected. The struggle happening in Kenya isn't a purely Kenyan affair. The tear gas that is being used on protesters comes from Israel. The police who beat our protesters are trained by Israel, trained by the UK, trained by the US. The funding, the vehicles that are being sent to go and abduct Kenyan people are brought by the European Union. So as diaspora, as taxpayers in the heart of empire, also understand and question your role towards the contribution of oppression of people who are far, far away from you, despite it not directly affecting you. This money could be going to build more schools in your area, build more hospitals, get you cheaper water. So the imperialism has a price for everyone, and we should show solidarity with each other because oppression is also internationalist.
Absolutely, my brother. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. We appreciate you. This is your first time, but I'm gonna make sure that it's not your last time, my brother. On Kimbunga Media. Yeah. we'll be in touch once again. Keep doing the good work that you're doing, whether it's in journalism or in activism. And this platform is also open to you. So whenever you feel like something needs to be said, do feel free to get in contact. And as best we can, we will make the space, my brother, because we respect you and your work. So thank you for coming through and informing our people this evening. Have a good rest of the day. Salamu. Peace and blessings. All right, brothers and sisters, that was our brother Sakawa over there in Kenya, and no doubt we're going to bring him back. As you can see, he's a brother of serious insight. So we give thanks for him coming through finally on Kimbunga Media. I did neglect to shout out the chat. as we open the show. So let me take a moment to do that now. And let me just say, brothers and sisters, as you can see, we started an hour earlier. That was just simply to accommodate our brother Sakawa, because of the fact that Kenya is 2 hours ahead of the UK. Yeah, so you know, we wanted to do our best to accommodate our brother's time, and so we started a little bit earlier than you're used to. So we hope that that's not too much of a hindrance for those of you who are just joining us. But feel free to check out the show previously, what you've missed. You know, there's much information there about what is taking place in Kenya. Bigging up Meloman in the building. Bigging up Lion Champion, who says, this is why I'm surprised you have doubts about the AES and Ibrahim Traore. So first and foremost, I do want to say that let me just spend a second on this for a second. The Alliance of the Sahel is more than Ibrahim Traore. This is taking away nothing from Ibrahim Traore, but Goita and Chiani are just as much leaders within that formation as it is currently constituted. I don't wrong people for having a particular affinity towards Ibrahim Traore, but if we are dealing with the institution that is in development, we have to be mindful of that fact. Yeah. Secondly, I have never expressed doubts about Traore as an individual. Yeah, we've never had cast aspersions on the man as an individual. What has been said, questions have been asked about his track record as a Pan-Africanist, and our sister Inem addressed those questions very well last week. So you can, brothers and sisters, can check from my actual perspective what I actually said last week. Feel free to check out that particular interview. And so it's not a lack of support for Ibrahim Traore as an individual. We said, and I have said, that we support Ibrahim Traore in as much as he represents the natural and informed will of the masses of the people of Burkina Faso, and the same for all of the leaders of the Alliance of the Sahel. That has been said more than once. And if you check our footage of the protest that happened in solidarity with the people of Burkina Faso and Ibrahim Traore, which took place on the 30th of April, check our coverage, and that was said. Yeah, so let's be clear about that. However, the nature of the coups and the question that was asked our sister last week, and there are other things that can be said, but the nature of the coups and what motivated the coups that brought the Alliance of the Sahel leaders to power, the dynamics surrounding that are worthy of being questioned. Yeah, critical analysis is required in relation to those dynamics, and we make no apology for engaging that critical analysis. Okay, we are not here to just support leaders for the sake of supporting leaders. When you have studied and are aware of the history of revolutionary Pan-Africanist movements within the Black world, on and off the African continent, it gives you a certain knowledge base that requires you to use that historical analysis and apply it to the present day circumstance. So many military coups have happened on the African continent. The overwhelming majority of them have been in the interest of European imperialist interests. Okay, and so we don't just jump on the thing. No, we have to look at the thing, and where we see positive developments, we acknowledge those positive developments, and where we see areas of concern, we acknowledge them as areas of concern, and where we have critical questions, we acknowledge them as critical questions. Yeah, and so we are allowed to have our doubts, especially in relation to a situation that is still very new and very embryonic. We are allowed to have our optimisms, and we are allowed to have our cautions. And brothers and sisters who have been watching will know that I have used the term cautiously optimistic concerning the developments in the alliance of the Sahel, and I remain so cautiously optimistic. I hope that all of my cautions will be proven wrong, and all of my cautions will be proven to be unnecessary as things develop in the alliance of the Sahel. But whatever questions that we have about Ibrahim Traore, whatever questions that we have about Chiani, whatever questions that we have about Goita, our support for the people of Burkina Faso and the people of Mali and the people of Niger is unequivocal, unshakable, and undeniable. The people of said nations had been organizing and mobilizing before the alliance of the Sahel, and we have been supporting our people in said nations from before the coups that brought the alliance of the Sahel to power happened. And say, in as much as the alliance of the Sahel is forwarding that Pan-African, that revolutionary Pan-African, that anti-imperialist agenda, then we will support the alliance of the Sahel and its leadership, brothers and sisters. And so I'm just making that very clear. I hope ones and ones understand. And if you want more context, do check out our conversation with our sister Enemesit Richardson on what is happening in the alliance of the Sahel, because you will get more context for where that question comes from, and you will understand that there's far more behind the impression that our brother or sister has just given there. So respect to yourself, Lion Champion. Anyway, thank you for listening. Bigging up my sister, only one Sosa, because there's only one Sosa, only one, miss it. You know what I mean? So we give thanks for your presence. And you had a post with my name in it. I just want to make sure I get that, so I'm not missing anything. Says Shakara, I rate you, brother. I know you know, but it has to be said. My sister, thank you so much. Yeah, I do appreciate that. Thank you for listening and sharing that with me. Like, ratings mutual, you know what I mean? And thank you. I see you in the comment section, relatively regularly nowadays. So I just want to, I appreciate that, sis. You know what I'm saying? I really, really do. So much appreciate love. Much appreciate love. Oh, look who's there. Look who. Hold on, we're going to come to you. Hold on there. I'll close it out, but I wanted to say respect to the chat. Jadorian is in the building. Our resident Alliance of the Sahel Ultimate Optimist is in the building. Kushti is in the building. So shout out to Kushti. You don't know. We love and respect you. Heru says, when AFRICOM was launched, no African country wanted to host it except Liberia. This is true. Yeah. That was under Bush. And then Obama came in, and it seemed like some of them started to get a bit shaky. Yeah. But there was still a lot of resistance. That needs to be said, that a lot of the states were very, very reluctant to host AFRICOM. But in the wake of Obama, some of them seem to be, more open to the possibility. And as I said, since then, Liberia and Nigeria were two of the nations that were most enthusiastic, from what I understand. Yeah. So, Kushti says, I'm a closeted optimist. I shall not confirm or deny such statements. I shall not confirm or deny such statements. But we have a reason still. We have a reason, Christy. You know. We have a reason. You know what I mean? We have a reason. So yeah. No, but as I said, brothers and sisters, we have to be critical. Yeah, we have to be critical as it stands, especially when we're dealing with geopolitics. Many forces involved. Many forces involved. And there are even some questions that we never really had time to go into with our sister Enemesit. But you will notice that in spite of the questions that we asked our sister, and our sister took the questions in the spirit that they were intended, our support for our sister's work, yes, and the initiatives that she is involved with among the people of the Alliance of the Sahel is unequivocal. You understand? So let us be clear when and not misleading when we are making certain statements, and let us try to understand deeply, what is being said and the perspectives that are being shared here, brothers and sisters. All right, many dynamics involved, including AFRICOM, including American interest, including Russian interest, and we don't take it for granted that Russian interests are necessarily our interests just because they're not necessarily American interests. You understand? So even if one supports the alliance of the Sahel leaders, just as an example, it would be wise to ask some critical questions about Russian influence, Russian presence, the involvement of the Wagner group, and so on and so forth. Yeah, this is not designed necessarily to be negative or lambasting, our brothers and sisters who are in leadership. But we understand what these forces represent, and so it's necessary to ask critical questions, about all of our movements, Kimbunga media included. There will be no offense if there are critical questions about Kimbunga media. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, in our truth and fairness, we are an institution serving our people, and so as we grow and develop, people will ask critical questions. That's just the nature of the thing, brothers and sisters. And so we thank you for being here. Once again, we thank our brother Sakawa, William Sakawa, who is an activist on the ground in Kenya, a journalist with African Stream. And it's a shame, brothers and sisters, that that a lot of the work that our brother did with African Stream is no longer available for you all to watch. Because he's a very insightful brother, a brother who's very, very good at his job and able to apply political analysis to journalism. But we give thanks to the Creator and the ancestors that he's still doing his work and able to join us here on Kimbunga Media. And no doubt we'll get him back soon and very soon. We stand with our people in Burkina Faso. We stand with our people in Mali. We stand with our people in Niger. We stand with our people in Sudan. We stand with our people in Haiti. We stand with our people in Congo. We stand with our people anywhere African people are. And today, we're standing with our people in Kenya. Do come through next week, Wednesday. The link is already up. Do come through next week, Wednesday, where we will be discussing, has President Trump brought peace to Congo and Rwanda? The astute among you will note the tongue-in-cheek nature of the question, but our brother Kambale Musavuli will be with us to break it down in no uncertain terms. And with that, we say unto thee, Tendai Mwadi, be thankful unto the Mother, Father, creative life force of the universe. Kudzai Muzimu Mukulu, we give praises unto our great ancestors. Abibi Tumi, Abibi Fahodie, African power and African liberation for all African people. Ashe, Ashe, Ashe.